Hi, I'm Annie. Contact information is in the description. So I've been processing my type and my partner's type. My partner is not officially typed, but I really feel like he's an ISTP. When we did the Keanu Reeves class in Objective Personality, that sort of like confirmed for me. It was just so familiar. I think that my partner could even be the same type. And also, of course, I could be completely wrong. My partner would have to be ST in some way. And I don't really see him as an ESTP. That just doesn't make sense. He's definitely a decider. Anyway, could be wrong, but let's just go on this assumption that my partner is an ISTP. A few weeks ago, I did an interview with Rose that was about relationships. You know, she has a series on relationships, and I will link that video in the description as well. And I just talked about friendships and work relationships and my partner. I think there's something that I kind of left out of that. And also I've made a video about my partner in the past, and there was something that I kind of left out. And it was, what do we fight about? I think I talked about it a little because I mentioned that we fight about what shows to watch on TV. And it's really this ST versus NF dilemma in our consume. But here's a real thing that we fight about. I love interesting conversations, and the direction that I go with my conversations is very NF. I like to explore the nature of reality. And every time I bring this up, he hates it. And I just feel totally shut down. He doesn't want to talk about it. He thinks it's ridiculous. And I've always felt like just a little bit shut down by that because I can, talk about that with other people sometimes and they find it acceptable. There's something just so repellent about that topic to him. Talking about, is there free will? Is time an illusion? Is all of manifestation an illusion? Is the mind in the body, or is the body in the mind? Is the world within consciousness, or is consciousness within the world? And he just will not talk about it, will not speculate, will not entertain any conversation on this topic. And it's one of the most interesting things to me, and I wish we could have a conversation about it, but I have to do that with other people who are open to it. So even the other day, I was talking to him about free will. And, this is a concept that's uncomfortable for people, the idea that there is no free will. I tried to initiate a conversation. He totally shut me down. And then I was on a walk a few days later and ran into one of my neighbors, and I said, hey, do you think there's free will? Because I was just thinking about it. It's kind of a play last info dom way to initiate a conversation. But this guy is open to those kinds of things. So I just dove right in oh, hey, do you think there's any free will? Not hey, how's it going? Nice weather we're having. The response from that person was, oh, wow, I was just talking with someone else about this the other day. And then we just dove into a conversation about whether or not there's free will. And this is a topic that's totally forbidden to talk about with my partner. Anything to do with the nature of reality, he doesn't like to talk about it. And I was thinking about it in terms of his cognitive functions and kind of understanding him better, that it's literally not allowed. It's one of those not allowed things, because my partner does speculate, but his speculations are based on concrete known data, concrete sensory, facts. And I say that in air quotes because if it is all an illusion, then, how factual are facts? I've just always had this feeling that reality is not as real as we assume that it is. And there are a lot of assumptions in science. I mean, we're going back to the smallest known particle and we're starting from there, but we don't know what's before that. So it's a consensus reality. The way that we talk about reality, quantify it, understand it, categorize it, is all based on our perception of reality, and we don't know that that perception is correct. And so for my partner, he will speculate, but it's based on facts. And when he speculates, he's right. And it drives me crazy. I mean, it's really cool. I admire that about him. And I think that probably he speculates in NT sleep. Some of those speculations are very, very private. They're not spoken. So I think his sleep is NITI. If he's not sure, he will not say it out loud. He won't share it. He very rarely shares his speculations, but when he does, they are correct. The pandemic is a good example of that because he came back from a trip in 2019 in December. The news of this virus was already starting in China, and he was fascinated by it and reading everything about it. He was on Reddit. It was sort of before China had sort of like hidden that information that was coming out. You know, they controlled the flow of the information coming out of China so that the world couldn't see what was happening there. But at first it was coming in, and it was coming in from private videos on Reddit of all kinds of stuff. So he became really obsessed with it. He was thinking about it a lot in January 2020. As early as January, he was telling me, when you go to the grocery store, pick up a few more things. And he was buying extra groceries and filling up our freezer, just really, you know, stocking up, telling me, get a little bit extra. And he was also telling me that it was a pandemic way, way before. I mean, it took him a long time to say it was a pandemic when, like, clearly it was. But, you know, my partner was talking about that and just reading the patterns of how frequently pandemics happen, you know, what this looks like, observing the patterns and saying, like, yes, this is a pandemic, and saying it's likely that you're not going to be able to work. You might want to consider giving up your downtown office. So I had this downtown massage therapy office that was like a good central location and like a professional space to work in. And he was just sort of psychologically preparing me to give that up. And I'm really grateful that he did that, because I did give it up. See, March 17th, we were shut down. I gave it up on April 1st because I believed him and I could just see like where this was headed. And I'm really glad that I did that, because a lot of my colleagues kept their offices and they just kept paying month after month, even though they couldn't work. Yeah, it's just something that I've noticed. A lot of our fights at the core, they have this ST versus NF kind of tension. And I feel a little bit more sympathetic to him, since I've had this idea that the reason we can't have those conversations that are really far out there speculating about the nature of reality is because he literally feels like it's not allowed. It's pointless and ridiculous to talk about anything that isn't based in a sensory detail. So anyway, that's what I've been thinking about this week. So he and I talk about other things. He likes to talk about the economy, the news, and that's where we can connect. So anyway, have a good week.